government's increasingly threadbare purse has lawmakers from both sides of the aisle clamoring for some solution to the deficit as the midterms draw near. Joining us this morning is Senator George LeMieux. He's a member of the Commerce Committee, along with our guest host, former Congressman Jim Greenwood. Senator, welcome. Good to have you.
It's great to be here.
Do you mind if I just ask you a response to the stew pack? Is that going to be some kind of canary in the midterm coal mine as to what these incumbents are going to face?
Well, I think you're going to see, we've seen a lot of my colleagues in the Senate say they're not going to run for re-election. You're going to see more of that as the election grows nearer. It's going to be a tough time for some of these folks who voted for this health care bill with all the kickbacks and all the deals behind closed doors. The American people don't like it.
Even if the economy improves markedly between now and November?
Well, you're an optimist. We'll see if the economy improves markedly, but I think things are going to continue to be challenging.
Is it hard?
I have to guess that Bart made his decision before his vote.
Really?
I'm just guessing. I haven't spoken with him, but my guess is that was such an agony for him, having been where he was and then made this deal with the president and come back and given his vote to Pelosi and Hoyer.
Isn't it difficult for the Republicans, though, to be effectively rooting against the economy at the moment?
I mean, well, we shouldn't be.
Isn't that what has to? No, but from a political standpoint, isn't that what has to happen, right? Carl said the economy may get better. You turn around and you say, well, I don't think it's. I'm not as optimistic as you are. Doesn't it have to be that way to make this work out?
Well, I think there's a lot of issues. Obviously, jobs is the #1 important issue. In my state, we've got 12.2% unemployment, the worst unemployment figure that we've had since we've been keeping records.
That's amazing.
It's very difficult times in Florida. Things I think are getting a little bit better. I talk to business leaders, small and large alike, and they tell me there are signs of things turning around. We all want the economy to get better, but another thing, there's a lot of other issues that the people of America are concerned about. They're concerned about our spending in Washington. The fact that we're going to, in 2011, spend $3.8 trillion. We're only going to take in $2.2 trillion. We're going to keep adding to our national debt. That's something that I'm really focused on and trying to get a handle on.
You know, the housing market obviously was a real part of your problem. I mean, overbuilding in the state, and all, both residential and commercial, I should say. What should be done to try to prevent that kind of overbuilding in your state again? Is there anything that can be done?
Well, I think we had a perfect storm of things that came together. We had four hurricanes in each year in 2004, 2005, some real 8 to 10 hurricanes. That caused a lot of remodeling, rebuilding that already heated up an overheated housing market. I think that we have to watch these mortgages very carefully. We can't have these ninja mortgages, no income, no job. People have to put something down. You have to make sure people have skin in the game in these houses, so they're not really effectively just renters.
Isn't your proposal on the budget to go back to 2007 spending and just try to keep it there for some period of time?
It is. You know, I'm new congressman to the U.S. Senate. I got appointed last year, so I think I come look at this with some fresh eyes. I ran a business before. I was the chief of staff of a governor in a state where we had to balance our budget. And unlike those situations where you have to make ends meet, Congress doesn't even talk about how much revenue we take in versus how much we spend. And I really worry about, for our kids and for folks' grandkids, that we're going to have an unsustainable problem in this country with too much government spending. We're spending $200 billion a year now just on the credit, the interest on all this spending. So what my proposal is, look, put in a mechanism in place that says we're going to go back to 2007, pre-stimulus. If you ask people in Florida, could you live on what you had in 2007? They'd be happy to have that much money. And we have an adult conversation where we say we're not going to spend more across the board than what we did in 2007. Democrats and Republicans have to come together on the floor of the House and Senate, have a debate about how we're going to freeze spending.
Does that include entitlements?
It includes everything. It includes defense,
How do you freeze entitlements?
Well, you have to put everything on the table. There's lots of different proposals that are out there right now. There's proposals about means testing Social Security. There's proposals about changing the retirement age. All of those proposals should be considered on the table. We should cut out waste, fraud, and abuse in government. You know, politicians have been saying that for a long time. There's ways to do it, trust me. We could do it in Medicare. We have $60 to $100 billion of healthcare fraud in Medicare.
Healthcare Bureau is going to take care of that.
No, it's not. There's about $1 billion or $2 billion in real savings on healthcare fraud in the healthcare bill. I used to be the Deputy Attorney General in Florida. We went after Medicaid fraud in Florida. It's the worst state in the country, unfortunately, for healthcare fraud. I say take a page from the credit card business, who stops fraud in a fantastic way by using these pre-screening computer models. We could use that same predictive modeling that the credit card business uses to try to stop the waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare, stop the fraud before it starts. We've all had this experience. You've been somewhere, credit card company calls you and says, did you really mean to make that purchase? They don't pay if you don't verify. We need to do that in healthcare.
How do you convince the public that long-term fiscal spending issues are as much of a dire emergency as someone running out of jobless benefits next week?
Well, I think the American people, if you look at the polls right now, they're saying that they're as concerned about debt and spending as they're concerned about any other topic. So we need to make sure that we get our fiscal house in order. They're concerned about their children. They don't want their kids to grow up in a world that in 10 years we're going to have $22 trillion in debt. That's the president's estimate.
I'm just saying, as a politician, cutting spending has never been a winning political strategy.
Well,
You're telling me it's different this time.
I hear it all the time when I go out and talk to folks in Florida that they're concerned for their children that we're no longer going to be the leader of the world, both economically and in other ways, if we don't get our spending under control.
You pretty much have to change the entitlement beneficiary benefits into the future so that people, you don't hit them today, but you know, okay, so I mean, they've already done it with retirement age, Social Security. Right. That's those kind of trend lines, because as I said earlier, in 20 years, there is not enough resources available to the federal government to pay for mandatory spending, and then that's game over.
Senator, it's good having you in.
It's great to be here.
That's going to be an interesting summer.
I hope we're going to introduce this bill next week. You know, we need to have these conversations on the floor of the House and Senate. If we do, we can. If we did this plan by 2013, we'd balance the budget. By 2020, we'd cut the national debt in half.
We've heard those types of promises before. We'll see what happens in 10 years. Senator George LeMieux of Florida. Thanks.
Coming up.